Before we begin, this story contains descriptions of a mass casualty aviation disaster and the deaths of 583 people. If that's something you need to step away from, we understand. Take care of yourself first. This episode's narration is AI-generated. The research, writing, and editorial decisions behind every story are made with care for accuracy and respect for those involved. On March 27, 1977, 583 people died in the deadliest aviation disaster in history. Not a single one of them was on a plane that had left the ground. You're listening to the Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, how the face of airline safety became the reason it failed. Los Rodeos Airport sits at 2,073 feet in Tenerife's northern mountains. It was designed for regional turboprops, small planes on short hops between the Canary Islands. On the afternoon of March 27, 1977, it held two fully loaded Boeing 747s that had no business being there. Captain Jacob Veldoye Zen van Zan 10 commanded KLM Flight 4805. 27,000 flight hours, head of KLM's flight training program. His face appeared on the airline's safety posters displayed in airports across Europe. Behind him on the taxiway sat Pan Am Flight 1736. 396 passengers and crew, waiting for KLM to move. Either plane was supposed to be at Los Rodeos. Both had filed flight plans for Las Palmas, Gran Canaria's main airport, an hour south. But at 1 p.m. that afternoon, a separatist bomb exploded inside the Las Palmas terminal. 8 people were wounded. The airport closed. Air traffic control diverted every inbound flight to Los Rodeos, a field that had never been designed to handle wide-body jets. By early afternoon, the small mountain airport was packed. KLM 4805 landed first. Pan Am 1736 arrived 20 minutes later and parked on the taxiway behind KLM. There was nowhere else to go. The ramp was full, and then Captain Van Zanten made a decision. He called for fuel trucks. Nobody had asked him to refuel. KLM already had enough fuel to reach Amsterdam, but Van Zanten wanted to save time on the turnaround. The hoses ran beneath the belly of the aircraft for 90 minutes. Pan Am couldn't move. They were pinned behind KLM. Captain Victor Grubbs sat in the cockpit and waited. Van Zanten sat in his cockpit with a notepad. Dutch aviation regulations capped crew duty hours at 14 hours. He was doing the math, and he didn't like what he saw. Los Rodeos wasn't built for this. The terminal had hard plastic chairs and no arrival boards. Passengers from half a dozen airlines clustered near the windows, waiting for updates that never came. Outside, the aircraft sat nose to tail on a taxiway that could barely hold them. Micro Cliffhanger 1. Van Zanten was trying to save time. He had no idea he was already spending it. At 3 p.m., Las Palmas reopened. The diverted aircraft began preparing to depart. But there was a problem. Los Rodeos had only one runway. To reach the takeoff threshold, departing planes had to backtrack, taxi south down the active runway, turn around at the far end, then take off heading north. There was no other way out. At 4:30 p.m., a cloud bank moved in from the Atlantic. Within 30 minutes, the airport was blanketed in fog. Visibility dropped to 300 meters. The control tower could see the runway threshold. Beyond that, nothing. The tower had no surface movement radar. Once an aircraft left the apron, controllers tracked it by radio position reports alone. If a pilot said he was at a taxiway, the controller trusted him. There was no way to verify. KLM was cleared to backtrack the full length of runway 30 and hold at the threshold. Pan Am was cleared to follow and exit at taxiway Charlie 3 onto the parallel taxiway. Then both planes would be clear. KLM could take off. Inside Pan Am's cockpit, the crew counted taxiway exits allowed as they moved south through the fog. They were on an unfamiliar airport in near-zero visibility. The chart showed Charlie 3, but the turn angle was sharp, nearly 148 degrees back onto the parallel taxiway. In the fog, with no center-line lighting, it wasn't obvious. They passed what they thought might be Charlie 3. They kept moving toward Charlie 4. They were still on the active runway. Fog is a leveler. It doesn't matter how experienced you are or how many hours you've logged. When visibility drops to 300 meters on an unfamiliar runway at dusk, everyone is operating on trust. Trust in your instruments. Trust in the controller. Trust that the other guy knows where he is. Micro cliffhanger 2. At that moment, KLM and Pan Am were 1.5 kilometers apart on the same runway, moving toward each other, and nobody in the tower could see either of them. 17:06 local time. Inside KLM's cockpit, Captain Van Zanten sat at the runway threshold. His hands rested on the throttles. The fog pressed against the windscreen. He could see nothing beyond the immediate ring of runway edge lights. Air traffic control transmitted a route clearance, the flight path KLM would follow after takeoff. It was not a takeoff clearance. The controller did not say, "cleared for takeoff," but Van Zanten heard what he needed to hear. He said, "We go," and advanced the throttles to full power. First Officer Klaus Mieurs hesitated. He keyed the radio. "We are now at takeoff." The controller began to respond. "Okay, stand by for takeoff. I will call you." At the same moment, Pan Am keyed their mic. "We're still taxiing down the runway, Clipper 1736. Both transmissions overlapped. The radio produced a high-pitched squeal. Neither message reached KLM intact. The controller's instruction to stand by cut off mid-sentence. Pan Am's warning that they were still on the runway, masked by the interference. Inside KLM's cockpit, Van Zanten called out V1, the point of no return. The aircraft vibrated through 100 knots. The engines roared. At 17:06:40, flight engineer Willem Schroeder spoke. His voice is calm on the cockpit voice recorder, almost conversational. "Is he not clear, that Pan-American?" Van Zanten answered immediately. "Oh yes." 7 seconds later, KLM was at 150 miles per hour. The fog ahead began to resolve into shapes, 2 white landing lights, growing larger. Inside Pan Am's cockpit, First Officer Robert Bragg was looking straight ahead through the windscreen. He saw the lights first. He said, "There he is. Look at him. Get off. Get off. Get off." Captain Grubbs slammed the throttles forward. Pan Am lurched left, trying to clear the runway. It wasn't enough. KLM's captain pulled the nose up just before impact. The aircraft rotated, briefly airborne. The main landing gear and the outboard engines tore through Pan Am's upper fuselage in a single sweep, 23 meters long. The roof came off. KLM traveled another 150 meters, then crashed inverted. 91,000 kilograms of jet fuel ignited before it stopped moving. All 248 people aboard died. Pan Am's fuselage buckled. The upper deck was gone. Fires erupted at multiple points. 61 survivors, most with burns, crawled or jumped through the holes torn in the aircraft's side. 583 dead. The highest death toll of any aviation accident in history. At the moment of the crash, Captain Jacob Veldooyer-Zen, Van Zanten's face, was on safety posters in airports across Europe. KLM had built an entire campaign around him. The airline's symbol of professionalism, of experience, of trust. Within days of the disaster, KLM dispatched teams to pull every poster. The Spanish investigation closed in 1978. The primary cause was listed as Captain Van Zanten's unauthorized takeoff roll. The cockpit voice recorder told the story clearly. 2 members of his crew had questioned whether Pan Am was clear. Both times, Van Zanten overrode them. But Tenerife wasn't just about one decision. It was about the culture that made that decision possible. A cockpit where the most experienced person in the room was never effectively challenged, even when 2 colleagues had independent reasons to believe something was wrong. After Tenerife, the aviation industry rewrote its rules. Air traffic control phraseology was standardized worldwide. The word takeoff was restricted to clearances only. Crew resource management training became mandatory, designed to empower junior crew to halt a captain when something doesn't feel right. The changes didn't bring back the 583 people who died on a foggy runway in the Canary Islands. But they created a system where authority and silence could no longer kill that many people at once. The question Tenerife leaves us with is this: what does it actually mean when we say someone is safe? Van Zanten had 27,000 flight hours. He trained other pilots. His record was extraordinary, and his record made him dangerous, in the one situation where pausing to verify, where listening to doubt, would have saved everyone. If this one kept you up tonight, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend who can't sleep. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the Unlit Room. See you in the dark.